the board couldn't get it together. And when they couldn't get it together, they just started.
And I find that interesting because if those who've served on boards know that there is a certain responsibility to serving on a board of directors. And so this was a pretty significant board. I mean, these were individuals with huge networks, access to resources. And so my question is, how could we not leverage that kind of board to really put the museum in a very different place than it is?
But, it comes down to that old thing. We don't give. I'm talking about me, you. We're not giving to our institutions. We're depending on basically white folks to fund our institutions, our pillar institutions. And we gotta somehow change that.
I guess my question then becomes, what are the pillar institutions? What do they do to ensure and inform, right? I think about when you think about our legacy organizations and their active role and where they are. Because I remember when the whole thing kind of switched up. And they were trying to get the $25 million for the roundhouse, and they had moved and they got all the people together. And you know what? There was a shakeup very similar to this with Robert Blackwell.
Well, no, Robert Blackwell was an interim. It's with Carol Adams where they had that shakeup. And she left, and Bob Blackwell was the interim director of the museum. But I did for Channel 7. I did the Night of 100 Stars. I was the MC for several years. And every year you see these black folks out there, man, they had gowns on, tuxes. They were dressed to the nines, sitting at these $500 a seat tables, all paid for by big white corporations. They were sitting there looking good, but they didn't spend any money to sit there. And there would be an appeal made during the night. Hey, give some money. And I didn't see any hands go up. I didn't see anybody writing any checks. But their companies wrote the checks for them. And it's sort of this thing that we've gotten into that we've got to change. There has to be direct. We have to start buying memberships to the museum. We have to start making donations to the museum. We're not doing that as black folks in Chicago. And I'm not talking about just in Chicago. I'm talking about in the region. This is the oldest African-American history museum in the country.
Is part of it, though, the fact that the lessening of disposable income that allows black, whether individuals or families, to be able to donate or even to purchase a membership? Because for many, the art space and even the museum space is seen as a luxury. And so could our economic decline be contributing to why we're not giving the $500 at the dinner or purchasing tickets for those kinds
of things? Who's doing the appeal? My question would be, who's actually doing the appeal? So, part of the reason that you hire a fundraiser, right, when you do these events, you hire a fundraiser that makes the appeal. Now, my guess is if you don't got a black fundraiser, right, because you come in and you put out the black fundraisers, right, I think it's reciprocity, right? Because you look at also in those over time, what we saw was the black vendors stop being the people that supplied the sound. The black vendors stopped being the people that provided the food. And so I think it's a give and take. But I'm going to tell you, the DuSable Museum and Dr. Margaret Burroughs, that legacy has to go on.
Thank you.
That legacy has to go on. But sometimes, I guess you asked the question, because when so many people go of stature, right? When you lose, think about when Chance the Rapper says, I'm not messing with.
But Chance the Rapper announced a long time ago that he would be leaving the board.
Gotcha.
He isn't part of this.
He
and his dad aren't part of this. These are the other people who did not.
Chance, I was looking at the time. So regardless, here's my question. My question is, when you start losing legacy people, like when you lose chairmen of the board of large corporations, right, when they walk away and they are the connection to the road builders or whatever, you gotta wonder, what does the credibility message go to? If I can't get black CEOs to stick, how are we gonna get white CEOs to stick? Unless they're doing their, sometimes they gotta just do their black thing, which is what you were talking about just a little bit earlier. I remember when I worked at Coke, my job was to manage the table for the Night of 100 Stars. So I made the request for the check, and I was the big man on campus because I filled the table. But I wasn't using my $10,000.
Well, the other thing, though, is also just what the exodus from the board, the signal that it sends to people who would want to invest in the institution. And so will you donate money, or will you make, I call it an investment in an institution that seems to be unstable or that seems to be in disarray? And so there's this sort of cycle because of the exodus of the board and the seeming disarray of the organization. That sends a signal to folks who are saying, well, is it worth the money that I do have to put into...
The board members weren't... The board members had what they call a get or give commitment.
Yeah.
They had to get $10,000 from selling memberships or whatever, or give directly $10,000. They weren't doing it.
And you got to say, if I get my $10,000 to pay somebody's salary, you got to ask, where is the money going? So I think that's where all the questions come from. I cannot wait to have this interview. Look, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Charles Thomas, exclusive interview. Perry Irma, DuSable Museum, what's going on? We'll talk about, we'll listen when we come back.
More of The Morning Show with Maze Jackson coming up.